Jake Morrison stood on the metal deck of his ship and looked out at the strange colors of space before him. His hands pressed against the cold window as he watched the spinning clouds of gas and dust that had hidden this place for thousands of years. The ship Phoenix moved slowly through the cosmic fog, its engines humming quietly in the darkness. Jake had been searching for this place his entire life, following old maps and ancient clues that most people said were just stories. Dr. Lisa Carter walked up behind him with shaking hands. She held a crystal tablet that glowed with soft blue light. Her eyes were wide with shock and excitement. The tablet had strange marks carved into its surface, marks that looked familiar but impossible at the same time. Lisa had spent 20 years studying old languages from dead worlds, but this was different. This was something that made her question everything she thought she knew about human history. "Jake, you need to see this right now," Lisa said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The writing on this tablet is not from any alien race we have ever met. These symbols match drawings found in caves on Earth that are over 100,000 years old. But that should be impossible because humans were supposed to be primitive back then." Jake turned away from the window and looked at the glowing tablet in Lisa's hands. The symbols seemed to dance and shift in the blue light, almost as if they were alive. He had seen similar marks in the ruins they found on Mars 5 years ago. Ruins that had started this whole journey into the unknown parts of space. The government had tried to keep those ruins secret, but word had gotten out to explorers like Jake, who refused to believe that humans were alone in the universe. The Phoenix continued its descent toward the planet below, and through the thick atmosphere Jake could see massive structures jutting up from the surface. Pyramids and tall towers reached toward the sky in patterns that reminded him of ancient monuments on Earth. But these were much larger, and clearly much older than anything humans had ever built. The geometric shapes seemed to follow rules of mathematics that human architects used, but on a scale that suggested whoever built them had technology far beyond what Earth possessed. Captain Ryan Blake sat at the communication station, his fingers dancing over the control buttons as he tried to make sense of the readings coming through the ship's sensors. His face had gone pale as he stared at the screen in front of him. Numbers and wavelengths scrolled past, but one signal stood out from all the rest. It was clear and strong, coming from somewhere on the planet's surface, and it was broadcasting in a pattern that made no sense. "Sir, we are getting a transmission from the planet," Ryan said, his voice cracking with nervousness. "But there is something very wrong with this signal. It started broadcasting before we even left Earth's solar system 3 months ago. That should be impossible unless whoever sent it knew we were coming before we decided to come ourselves." Jake felt a cold chill run down his spine. The idea that someone or something had been expecting them was terrifying and exciting at the same time. He had always believed that humans were meant for something greater than just living on one small planet, but he had never imagined that something might be waiting for them among the stars. The thought made him feel both hopeful and afraid. The voice that came through the ship's speakers was calm and clear, speaking perfect English with no accent or strange pronunciation. It sounded like a person from Earth, but that was impossible because no human had ever been to this part of the galaxy before. The voice was neither male nor female, but somehow managed to sound ancient and wise, as if it had been waiting a very long time to speak these words. "Welcome back, children of Earth," the voice said, filling the bridge with its presence. "We have been waiting for you to remember who you really are. The time of forgetting is coming to an end, and the time of remembering is about to begin. You have traveled far to reach this place, but you have not discovered something new. You have come home to something very old." Lisa dropped the crystal tablet and it clattered onto the metal floor without breaking. Her mouth hung open as she stared at the communications panel. Jake felt his knees go weak as the meaning of the words sank into his mind. "Children of Earth, remember who you really are, come home." These phrases suggested things that went against everything humans had been taught about their place in the universe. Ryan's hands flew over his controls as he tried to trace the source of the transmission. His reading showed that the signal was coming from multiple locations on the planet at once, as if the entire world was speaking to them with one voice. The power levels were enormous, suggesting technology that was far more advanced than anything humans possessed, yet the voice sounded completely human. Jake walked over to the main control panel and activated the ship's recording systems. Whatever was happening here was too important to trust to memory alone. The human government would want to know about this, and so would every person living on Earth and the colony worlds. This moment might change everything humans thought they knew about themselves and their history. Phoenix to all crew members, Jake announced over the ship's internal communication system. Prepare for landing on the planet's surface. All science teams report to your stations. All security teams remain on alert, but do not prepare weapons unless I give direct orders. Whatever is down there, it has been waiting for us, and it knows we are coming. As the Phoenix broke through the planet's atmosphere, Jake could see that the structures below were even more impressive than they had appeared from space. Cities spread across continents in perfect geometric patterns. Roads and bridges connected distant locations in straight lines that seemed to ignore natural barriers like mountains and rivers. Everything suggested planning and engineering on a scale that humans had never achieved, yet the architectural style was hauntingly familiar. The ship touched down in a clearing near the largest of the pyramid structures. Through the windows, Jake could see that the ground was covered with symbols carved into stone, the same symbols that appeared on Lisa's crystal tablet. The symbols seemed to glow with their own light, pulsing in rhythm like a heartbeat. Jake knew that whatever they found here would change human civilization forever, but he had no idea that the greatest shock was still waiting for them in the depths of the ancient city. 3 days had passed since the Phoenix landed on the ancient world, and Jake Morrison could barely believe what his team had discovered in the underground chambers beneath the pyramid. Dr. Lisa Carter led him through corridors carved from solid stone, past walls covered with images and symbols that told a story too incredible to accept. The air in the tunnels was clean and fresh, as if the ventilation systems had been running for thousands of years without any maintenance. Lieutenant Ben Parker stood before a massive wall, covered with moving pictures of light that showed the galaxy as it had existed millions of years ago. His technical equipment could barely measure the energy coming from the display. Yet somehow Ben understood how to control it just by touching certain symbols. The images shifted and changed as he moved his hands, showing star systems and planets that no longer existed, and others that were now home to alien civilizations. The data is completely clear, Ben announced to the group of expedition leaders gathered around him. Humans did not evolve on Earth like our scientists always believed. We put ourselves there as a backup plan when something terrible was about to happen to our real homeworlds. Earth was chosen because it was far away from the center of the galaxy and could support human life for a very long time. The holographic display changed to show thousands of ships leaving the planet they were now standing on. The ships were enormous, each one large enough to carry entire cities full of people. Some ships went to Earth, but many others traveled to different worlds scattered across the galaxy. Jake watched in amazement as the display showed humans spreading to hundreds of planets, establishing colonies and settlements that were meant to preserve human civilization if their original worlds were destroyed. Dr. Amy Foster, the expedition's expert on genetics and biology, had been studying samples of alien DNA that the team had collected from previous exploration missions. Her findings were even more shocking than the historical records they had found in the pyramid. She stood before a bioscanner that showed genetic patterns and codes in three-dimensional models that rotated slowly in the air above her equipment. The genetic evidence is impossible to argue with, Amy said, her voice filled with wonder and disbelief. Every intelligent species in the current Galactic Council shows clear signs of human genetic engineering. We did not just spread across the galaxy millions of years ago. We created most of the intelligent life forms that exist today. The Zephyrians, the Andromedans, the Centaurians, all of them carry human DNA mixed with local animal life from their home planets. Jake felt dizzy as he tried to understand what Amy was telling them. The species that humans had met when they first left Earth's solar system, the aliens who had treated humans as primitive newcomers to galactic civilization, were actually created by human ancestors. The advanced technologies and superior knowledge that these alien species possessed had originally come from human sources that had been lost and forgotten over millions of years. Lisa walked over to another section of the chamber where ancient computers hummed quietly with power. The machines looked nothing like human technology. But when Lisa touched the control surfaces, information flowed directly into her mind. She could see the history of the galaxy unfolding like a movie, showing the rise and fall of civilizations, wars between star systems, and long periods of peace and prosperity. There is more, Lisa said, her eyes glowing with the same blue light that came from the computers. The genetic engineering was not random or accidental. Each species was designed for specific purposes. Some were meant to be explorers and scientists. Others were meant to be builders and farmers. Still others were meant to be warriors and protectors. All of them were meant to work together as parts of a larger galactic civilization. The ancient voice spoke again, this time coming from speakers built into the walls of the chamber itself. The sound surrounded them completely, as if the entire planet was speaking to them at once. Jake realized that the voice was not coming from any single person or machine, but from a collective intelligence that had been waiting for humans to return and reclaim their role as leaders of galactic civilization. "You understand now, Commander Morrison," the voice said, addressing Jake directly even though he had never told anyone on the planet his name or rank. The galaxy forgot its true origins when the Great Silence began 10,000 years ago. The species we created stopped communicating with each other and began to see themselves as separate and independent. But you never completely lost the genetic programming that allows you to remember the truth. Jake looked around at his team and saw the same mixture of amazement and fear in their faces that he felt in his own heart. They had come to this planet looking for archaeological treasures and scientific knowledge, but instead they had discovered that humans were the original rulers of the entire galaxy. The responsibility of this knowledge was almost too much to bear. Ben had discovered something else in the computer systems that made the situation even more complicated. The records showed that the human ancestors had not simply left Earth and the other colony worlds by choice. They had been forced to retreat and hide when something dangerous had threatened the entire galaxy. The records were unclear about what this threat had been, but it was clear that the original humans had believed it would return someday. "Commander," Ben said, his voice tight with worry. The evacuation of the original human worlds was not planned as a normal expansion of civilization. It was an emergency response to something that the records call the Dark Tide. The original humans expected this threat to return eventually, and they designed the colony worlds like Earth to serve as hiding places, where humans could wait until it was safe to come back. Amy had made another discovery that explained why humans seemed to have such a natural ability to understand and control the ancient technology. The genetic locks that had been placed in human DNA were designed to activate when humans reached a certain level of technological development. These locks contained information and abilities that had been hidden in human genetics for millions of years, waiting for the right time to be released. "We are not just remembering our history," Amy explained. "We are remembering how to be what we were always meant to be. The abilities that some humans have always possessed, like unusual intelligence, psychic sensitivity, and natural leadership skills, are actually genetic memories from our ancestors who ruled the galaxy long before Earth even had complex life forms." Jake walked to the center of the chamber and placed his hand on a crystal column that rose from the floor. The moment his skin touched the smooth surface, he felt his consciousness expand to encompass the entire planet and beyond. He could sense human technology waking up on worlds throughout the galaxy, responding to signals that his presence was sending out automatically. The galaxy was beginning to remember what it had forgotten, and the process could not be stopped or reversed. The news of humanity's discovery spread through human space faster than anyone could have imagined, but the reaction from the Galactic Council was immediate and hostile. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the command deck of the Earth Defense Station and watched through the massive viewing windows as alien warships gathered at the edge of human territory. She had never seen so many vessels in one place, and their weapons were all pointed toward Earth and the human colony worlds. High Chancellor Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire had called an emergency session of the Galactic Council, and the official statement was broadcast across all communication channels in the galaxy. The Chancellor's voice was filled with anger and disbelief as he declared that human claims about being the ancient creators of galactic civilization were dangerous, lies designed to justify human expansion into council space. "These primitive beings seek to deceive us with fabricated evidence," Vextar announced to the assembled representatives of 50 different alien species. "They have somehow created false archaeological sites and genetic data to support their ridiculous claims of superiority over species that have existed for hundreds of thousands of years. We must act quickly to stop this deception before it spreads panic throughout our civilized worlds." Back on the ancient planet that humans now called Origin 1, Jake Morrison worked desperately with Dr. Lisa Carter to unlock more of the information stored in the underground archives. The computers seemed to respond to their presence by revealing new chambers and data storage areas that had been sealed for millions of years. Each new discovery provided more evidence of humanity's true role in galactic history, but also revealed how dangerous their situation was becoming. "Look at this star map," Lisa said, pointing to a three-dimensional display that showed the current positions of all major civilizations in the galaxy. Every world that the Galactic Council considers sacred or forbidden contains human technology that has been sleeping for thousands of years. The Council species built their most important cities and temples on top of human ruins without even realizing what they were doing. Lieutenant Ben Parker had been working with the ancient computer systems for days without sleep, and his discoveries were becoming more disturbing with each passing hour. The technology was not just advanced beyond anything humans currently possessed, but it was also designed to be operated by human consciousness in ways that alien minds could not fully comprehend. The original humans had built safeguards into their creations that would only activate when true humans returned to claim them. "Commander, the Council species were not just genetically engineered by our ancestors," Ben said, his voice shaking with exhaustion and amazement. "They were designed to be dependent on human guidance and leadership. That is why their civilizations have been stuck at the same level of technology for the past 50,000 years. Without human oversight, they cannot advance beyond a certain point." This revelation explained many mysteries that had puzzled human scientists since first contact with alien civilizations. The Council species possessed incredible technologies like faster-than-light travel and energy weapons, but they had not invented anything truly new for thousands of years. Their societies were stable but static, maintaining the same political systems and cultural practices across countless generations without significant change or growth. Meanwhile, Captain Ryan Blake received urgent communications from Earth Command that made the situation even more complex and dangerous. Human colonies throughout the galaxy were reporting strange phenomena that seemed to be connected to the discoveries on Origin 1. Ancient structures that had been mistaken for natural rock formations were beginning to emit energy signatures. Space stations that had appeared to be dead debris were coming back to life and broadcasting signals in human languages. "Sir, Mars Control reports that the ruins we discovered 5 years ago are now fully operational," Ryan announced to the assembled expedition leadership. "The entire complex has activated itself and is running diagnostics on systems that we cannot even identify. Similar activations are being reported from the asteroid belt, the moons of Jupiter, and even from sites on Earth that were previously thought to be nothing more than ancient monuments." Dr. Amy Foster had made another breakthrough in understanding the genetic changes that were occurring in humans throughout the galaxy. The activation of the ancient technology was triggering dormant genetic sequences in human DNA, sequences that were restoring abilities and knowledge that had been locked away for millions of years. Humans working near the activated sites were reporting enhanced intelligence, improved physical capabilities, and most remarkably, the ability to interface directly with technologies they had never seen before. "The genetic locks are not just releasing memories," Amy explained to Jake and the others. "They are restoring our ancestors' actual capabilities. Humans are beginning to access parts of their brains that have been dormant since our species went into hiding. We are becoming what we were always meant to be. But the process is happening faster than anyone expected." Jake stood in the central control chamber of the Origin 1 facility, with his hand resting on the crystal interface that connected him to a network spanning the entire galaxy. Through this connection, he could sense every piece of human technology that was waking up, every sleeping installation that was beginning to remember its purpose, and every hidden base that was revealing itself after millions of years of concealment. The sensation was overwhelming and intoxicating. Jake could feel the presence of billions of humans scattered across hundreds of worlds, all of them beginning to experience the same genetic awakening that was transforming his team on Origin 1. But he could also sense something else through the network, something that filled him with dread and determination at the same time. "The Council species are not just our genetic descendants," Jake said aloud, as understanding flooded through his enhanced consciousness. "They are our children in the most literal sense. We created them to take care of the galaxy while we were sleeping, but they forgot their original purpose and began to see themselves as the rightful owners of everything we built." On the flagship of the Galactic Council fleet, High Chancellor Vextar was experiencing something that his species had not felt for thousands of years. Racial memories were flooding back into his consciousness. Memories that had been suppressed by genetic programming that was now breaking down. He saw images of towering human figures guiding his ancestors through their first steps toward civilization, teaching them language and mathematics, and the basic principles of technology. The memories were painful and confusing because they contradicted everything that Vextar's people believed about their own history. According to their legends, the Zephyrians had evolved naturally on their homeworld and had discovered the principles of science and technology through their own efforts. The idea that they owed their existence and their knowledge to another species was almost impossible for Vextar to accept, but the memories were too clear and too detailed to be dismissed as fantasy or hallucination. Vextar could see human scientists working in laboratories, designing the genetic codes that would become his species. He could see human teachers instructing the first generation of Zephyrians in the arts of civilization. Most disturbing of all, he could see the love and care that the humans had put into creating each new species, treating them like beloved children who would carry on human civilization after the creators themselves had gone into hiding. The ancient voice spoke one final time, broadcasting its message simultaneously through every communication system in the galaxy. Human ships, alien vessels, space stations, and planetary communication networks all carried the same words at the same moment, ensuring that every intelligent being in the galaxy would hear and understand the truth. "The time of forgetting is over," the voice announced with quiet authority. "The elders have returned to reclaim their place in the galaxy they created. The children who have grown up in our absence will now remember their true heritage and their proper role in the cosmic order that we established millions of years ago." The war began when the Galactic Council fleet launched a massive bombardment against Origin 1, determined to destroy what they believed was the source of humanity's dangerous claims about galactic history. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched from her command station as thousands of energy beams and missile warheads streaked toward the planet, where Jake Morrison and his team were still working to unlock the ancient archives. The firepower directed at the human discovery was enough to destroy an entire star system, but as the weapons struck the planet's surface, something impossible happened. Ancient shield systems that had been dormant for millions of years suddenly activated, creating a protective barrier around Origin 1 that deflected the Council's attack with effortless ease. The energy beams bounced off the shields like raindrops hitting a window, and the missile warheads exploded harmlessly against an invisible wall that surrounded the entire planet. More shocking still, similar shields began activating around every human colony and outpost throughout the galaxy. Space stations that had appeared to be nothing more than ancient debris suddenly revealed themselves as massive defense platforms bristling with weapons that made Council technology look primitive by comparison. Asteroid fields rearranged themselves into geometric patterns, creating impenetrable barriers around human settlements that had been completely vulnerable just hours before. Dr. Amy Foster made the most significant discovery yet, while monitoring the genetic changes occurring in humans throughout the galaxy. The activation of the ancient defense systems had triggered a cascade of genetic unlocks in human DNA, releasing abilities and knowledge that had been dormant since humanity's ancestors had gone into hiding. Humans everywhere were beginning to remember not just their history, but capabilities that made them far more than just another intelligent species. "The genetic locks are releasing in stages," Amy reported to Jake Morrison as he stood in the central control chamber on Origin 1. "First came enhanced intelligence and intuitive understanding of technology. Now humans are accessing neural pathways that allow direct interface with any system built by our ancestors. But there are more locks still waiting to be opened, and I cannot predict what abilities they might contain. Indeed, human crews throughout the galaxy were displaying powers that seemed impossible, according to everything science understood about biology and physics. Navigation officers were guiding their ships through hyperspace without computers, using instinctive knowledge of cosmic currents and dimensional pathways. Communication specialists were understanding alien languages instantly, as if the genetic templates for all Council species were stored in human memory. Most remarkably, engineers were repairing and improving ancient technology just by touching it. Their enhanced consciousness, automatically understanding systems that had been built millions of years before. They were born. Jake Morrison stood with his hand pressed against the crystal interface that connected him to the galactic network of human technology. Through this connection, he could sense every piece of ancient equipment that was coming online, every sleeping installation that was remembering its purpose, every hidden base that was revealing itself after eons of concealment. The sensation was like being connected to the nervous system of the entire galaxy. The Council species are not just our genetic descendants, Jake realized as information flowed through his enhanced consciousness. They are our children in every sense that matters. We created them to be the caretakers of galactic civilization while we waited for the right time to return. But they forgot their original purpose when the genetic locks in their own DNA began to break down over thousands of years. The understanding that flowed through the network was both beautiful and terrifying. The original humans had not simply created alien species as slaves or servants, but as beloved children who were meant to grow and develop while maintaining the basic principles of peaceful civilization. Each species had been given specific talents and inclinations that would contribute to the overall health and progress of galactic society. On the Council flagship, High Chancellor Vextar was experiencing the same flood of racial memory that was affecting his species throughout the galaxy. The genetic blocks that had prevented Council species from remembering their true origins were breaking down, releasing millions of years of suppressed knowledge and understanding. Vextar could see his own ancestors being taught by human scientists who treated them with the same care and patience that parents show to young children. The memories were overwhelming and transformative. Vextar remembered human voices speaking words of encouragement as his ancestors learned to use tools and build shelters. He remembered human teachers explaining the principles of mathematics and science with infinite patience. Most importantly, he remembered the love and hope in human faces as they watched their created children take their first steps toward independence. By the ancient stars, Vextar whispered as the full truth crashed over his consciousness. We are not the owners of this galaxy. We are the inheritors, and our inheritance comes from the species we have been trying to destroy. Similar awakenings were occurring throughout the Council fleet as genetic memories returned to thousands of different alien species. The Andromedans remembered being taught agriculture and medicine by human mentors. The Centaurians recalled learning engineering and architecture from human instructors. The Ragelians recovered memories of human artists teaching them music and literature that had become the foundation of their entire culture. Dr. Lisa Carter had found something in the ancient archives that explained why the genetic locks were releasing now after remaining dormant for so many thousands of years. The original humans had programmed the locks to respond to specific galactic conditions that indicated the return of the threat that had forced humanity into hiding in the first place. The awakening is not random, Lisa announced to the expedition team. Our ancestors designed the genetic programming to activate when long-range sensors detected certain energy signatures approaching the galaxy from deep space. Something is coming, something that forced the original human civilization to retreat and hide their children until a safer time. Lieutenant Ben Parker had been monitoring the ancient sensor networks that were coming online throughout the galaxy, and his readings confirmed Lisa's analysis. Massive objects were moving through the void between galaxies, objects that generated energy patterns unlike anything in the known universe. The approach was slow but steady, suggesting an intelligence that moved with deliberate purpose across distances that would take normal spacecraft millions of years to traverse. The threat that drove our ancestors into hiding is returning, Ben reported with growing alarm. The sensor networks estimate arrival in approximately 50 years, which means we have very little time to prepare the galaxy for something that was powerful enough to force the most advanced civilization in galactic history to go into hiding. Jake felt the weight of this revelation settle over him, like a heavy cloak. The return of humanity's true nature and the awakening of their ancient technology was not just a restoration of historical truth, but preparation for a coming war that would determine the survival of every intelligent species in the galaxy. The children that humanity had created and then hidden from danger were about to face the same threat that had nearly destroyed their creators. But now the galaxy was no longer divided into competing species struggling for resources and territory. Human technology was merging seamlessly with the innovations that their descendant species had developed during the long millennia of separation. Ancient knowledge combined with new discoveries. creating possibilities that neither humans nor their created children could have achieved alone. The shields protecting human worlds began extending to cover Council territories as well. Defense platforms that had been hidden in dead systems for millions of years moved to strategic positions throughout the galaxy. Most importantly, the genetic awakening was spreading from humans to their descendant species, restoring abilities and knowledge that all of them would need to face the approaching darkness together. The war ended not with the clash of weapons or the destruction of fleets, but with recognition and understanding that spread through the galaxy like light breaking through darkness. As the ancient human technology fully awakened and the genetic locks in both human and Council species completed their release, a new awareness dawned on every intelligent being in the galaxy. They were not separate species competing for survival, but members of a single extended family that had been artificially separated by forgotten history. Dr. Lisa Carter stood before the newly formed Galactic Assembly, no longer as the representative of a species that the Council had considered primitive newcomers, but as a voice of the elders themselves. The archaeological evidence was now undeniable and overwhelming. Human ruins existed on every Council world, usually buried beneath the foundations of their greatest cities and most sacred temples. The technology that each species considered their own greatest achievements were all based on principles and designs that originated from human sources millions of years in the past. We did not come to conquer or to rule over anyone, Lisa explained to the assembled representatives of 50 different species. Our ancestors created you to be independent and to grow beyond what we ourselves had achieved. The hiding and the forgetting were meant to give you space and time to become fully yourselves, while preserving the knowledge that would be needed when the ancient threat returned. Admiral Kate Sullivan found herself in the surreal position of being asked to take command of the Combined Galactic Defense Forces. The military technologies that each Council species had developed over thousands of years were all based on human designs, and their crews were beginning to understand that their weapons and ships functioned best under human leadership. But this was not because humans were superior, but because the technology itself had been designed to respond to human consciousness and decision-making patterns. It is not about conquest or domination, Jake Morrison explained to the assembly as he stood before representatives who were still struggling to understand their new reality. It never was about creating servants or slaves. Our ancestors wanted children who would grow and change and become something better than what we were. The genetic programming and the technological safeguards were meant to protect you during your development, not to control you forever. Lieutenant Ben Parker had made another crucial discovery in the ancient archives that explained the true reason for the great silence that had separated the galaxy's species for so many thousands of years. The original humans had detected massive objects approaching from beyond the edge of the galaxy, objects that had destroyed other galactic civilizations in distant parts of the universe. The retreat to hidden worlds like Earth had not been a choice, but a desperate emergency plan to preserve both human civilization and the species they had created. The threat is returning, Ben announced to the assembly, his words causing a ripple of fear and determination to spread through the gathered representatives. Our ancestors knew this day would come eventually. They designed the genetic locks and the sleeping technology to activate when long-range sensors detected the approach of what the ancient records call the Devourers, entities that consume the life force of entire civilizations. Dr. Amy Foster had completed her analysis of the genetic changes that were occurring throughout the galaxy, and her findings provided both hope and urgency for the challenges ahead. The awakening was not limited to humans, but was spreading to all the Council species as their own genetic programming remembered its original purpose. Each species was recovering abilities and knowledge that had been locked away since their creation, abilities that would be essential for the coming conflict. We are not just remembering our history, Amy explained to the assembly. All of us, human and Council species alike, are becoming what we were always meant to be. The artificial limitations that prevented our full development are being removed, and we are accessing capabilities that our ancestors built into our genetic codes millions of years ago. The transformation was remarkable to witness. Zephyrian engineers were suddenly able to understand and improve upon human technology that had seemed impossibly advanced just days before. Andromedan scientists were making breakthrough discoveries by combining their own research with recovered human knowledge. Centaurian artists were creating works of beauty that expressed the joy and wonder of their recovered heritage. High Chancellor Vextar had become one of the strongest advocates for the new galactic unity. The return of his species' genetic memories had not diminished his pride in what the Zephyrians had accomplished, but had given him a deeper understanding of how their achievements fit into a larger cosmic purpose. He spoke to the assembly with a voice filled with emotion and determination. "We were created with love and given the freedom to grow beyond our Creator's limitations," Vextar declared to his fellow representatives. "Now we have the opportunity to prove worthy of that love by standing together against a threat that our creators faced alone. We will not hide as they were forced to do. We will fight together as the family we were always meant to be." Jake Morrison walked through the corridors of the massive space station that had become the center of galactic government, marveling at how quickly former enemies had become allies and partners in preparing for the approaching crisis. Human ships flew in formation with council vessels, their crews working together to integrate technologies that had been separated for thousands of years. The ancient knowledge was merging with new innovations to create defensive capabilities that neither humans nor council species could have achieved alone. The long-range sensor networks were providing increasingly detailed information about the approaching threat. The Devourers were not ships or machines in any conventional sense, but something far more terrible. They were entities that existed partially outside normal space and time, feeding on the organized energy patterns that made up living civilizations. They had destroyed hundreds of galactic communities across the universe, leaving behind empty regions of space where once thriving worlds had become lifeless rocks. Our ancestors faced this threat when they were alone and unprepared, Jake explained to a gathering of military leaders from all species. They were forced to retreat and hide because they could not match the Devourers' power with the resources of a single species. But we are not alone, and we are not unprepared. We have the combined knowledge and technology of an entire galactic civilization, and we have 50 years to get ready. The preparation was already beginning throughout the galaxy. Ancient weapon systems that had been sleeping for millions of years were being awakened and upgraded with new technology. Defensive installations were being built on strategic worlds using designs that combined human engineering with council innovations. Most importantly, the genetic awakening was accelerating. As more and more individuals of all species accessed abilities that would be crucial in the coming conflict. Dr. Lisa Carter had found something else in the archives that gave her hope for the future. The original humans had not simply hidden and waited for the threat to pass. They had spent millions of years studying the Devourers, learning their weaknesses and developing strategies that might work when used by a united galactic civilization. The knowledge was there, waiting to be rediscovered and adapted for use by the combined forces of humans and their created children. "Our ancestors left us more than just technology and genetic abilities," Lisa announced to the assembly. "They left us a complete strategic plan for defeating the Devourers, a plan that requires the cooperation of multiple species with different capabilities working together in perfect coordination. They created us not just as their children, but as the army that would finish the fight they could not complete alone." As Jake stood on the observation deck of the command station and looked out at the combined fleet that was gathering to defend the galaxy, he felt a sense of completion and purpose that filled his entire being. The stars themselves seemed to pulse with anticipation as ships from 100 different worlds prepared to face their common destiny. Human vessels flew alongside the craft of species they had created, ancient technology merging with new innovations, all of it guided by the love and hope that the original elders had built into the very foundation of galactic civilization. The galaxy had learned who the humans really were, and the knowledge had not come too late. The elders had awakened just in time to lead their children in a battle that would determine whether the light of intelligence and love would continue to shine among the stars, or whether the darkness between galaxies would claim another victim in its endless hunger. Together, they would face whatever came from the deep void, united as the family they had always been meant to be.